Hey, welcome to the Shopfix channel, a community joined together for the love of woodworking. So I recently designed a bunch of mallets, and ultimately I came up with this final design here. The main features of this design is that I'm using a round handle rather than a rectangular handle, and then rather than chiseling out to put that handle in, I'm just drilling a hole with a drill press. You could also use a hand power drill to do that as well if you want to make your mallet all with hand tools. Instead of the handle being wedged from the top, I'm wedging it from the side of the mallet, and I'm putting it in a dowel pin within the handle and the head itself to securely mount that handle in place. So that's that mallet design, and there's two different things you can do for the head. You can leave the edges straight. I kind of like having a bevel on there, and that is a 7-degree bevel, just kind of like your joiner's mallet. And then you can also do the curve at the top of the mallet. So there's an example of that. You have the curve at the top, and then that also is the 7-degree bevel. If you leave it straight, you'll be left with kind of like a design like this. This one does have some chamfered edges on the side. However, you can see how the straight edge differs from the beveled edge. I think the beveled edge looks better, but you know, it's all up to you in that case. Now, there's also another design feature that you're going to want to think about, and that is what wood that you're going to be using for your mallet. So in the description below, I actually placed a infographic that tells you the hardness of different types of woods, and it's rated on a scale, and so you can see which woods are the hardest so that you can actually have a mallet that's going to stand the test of time. So the final feature in your mallet design you're going to want to think about is if you're going to want to use one block of wood or if you're going to laminate a couple pieces together. So you have these mallets where I have laminated pieces of wood together. And this is great because you can use scrap wood around the shop. However, I don't think it's as sturdy as using a solid block of wood, such as I use this solid block of Osage. And that came out of an Osage orange tree, and that comes, you know, you begin with a solid chunk of wood, and then you're working it down to where you have a mallet. And so that's a great way to make a very sturdy mallet. And laminating them works as well, and I think one of the coolest features about laminating pieces together to make a mallet is that you can get really cool designs because you can use different color of wood. So I have walnut, cherry, then walnut, so that's pretty cool, that design. And then on these, I have a cherry, walnut, cherry design. So when you get to laminate wood like that, that gets pretty cool, I think. Aesthetically, that's pretty cool. But I think the better design is to use one solid block of wood, and it can be much denser and harder, and it also sometimes weighs more because it's one solid chunk of wood. So I think those are definitely the considerations that you're going to want to think about before building a mallet. And obviously in all of these mallets, I'm using a dowel or a branch that's already dowel shaped. All right, so let's say you want to use scrap wood around the shop. And let's say you have like maybe some walnut and cherry or maybe some oak that you want to use, and you just want to laminate them together.
So the key to using scrap wood on a mallet project is to make sure that the boards are all square before you glue them together. So that's what you'll see me doing here. Ultimately, you'll want to make sure that the boards that you're going to be gluing together create a block of wood for the mallet head that's over 2 3/4 inches in height, 3 inches in width, and 6 inches in length, because those are the final dimensions that you'll want to shoot for your final mallet head design. One tip that I'd like to note here is that if you're going to be using various species of wood and laminating them together, you'll want to make sure that the outside boards are the same thickness, otherwise your mallet head will look lopsided. Well, once these boards are properly milled and these pieces are square with one another, we can go ahead and apply our wood glue and clamp these together. Well, once these boards are properly glued together, we'll do some final milling procedures to make sure that these mallet heads are going to be nice and square.
All right, so once you have your wood laminated together, then you want to drill the hole for the dowel handle. Or you can also use a branch like I did here. You're just going to want to make sure that the branch is the same diameter as the hole that you're drilling. And so what we'll be doing is I'll be using a drill press to drill out the diameter of the hole in which matches the diameter of the dowel. And again, you can use a hand-powered drill for this if you want to use all hand tools. Then you can add in some design features such as the curved top, which is pretty typical of a joiner's mallet. And if you don't exactly know what type of curve that is, in the description below, I actually included a template that you can put on your board to draw that curve out. So that could be useful for you. And so after I drew this on with the template, I was able to cut this curve out on the bandsaw.
A good tip when cutting out a design on a bandsaw is to cut on the waist side and leave some excess so that you can stand up to the line, and that way you get a perfect match. I'll use a spindle sander here to clean up the rough bandsaw lines. Then we can finish this design by using a chamfer bit and a router table to make a nice edge on this mallet head. Make sure you don't try to route end grain because it's likely going to tear out and leave a rough surface. Once we have cut out all the design features that we want in our mallet head, we can go ahead and take our dowel handle and place it within the hole that we drilled out on the drill press. Make sure if you're using this design method that you do not place any glue on the handle when you're tapping this into the hole, because there's not enough room and the handle will get stuck before it reaches the end of the hole. Once we have the handle properly placed within the mallet head, we'll begin to drill out the hole for the dowel pin that locks that handle within the mallet head. The recommended size for this dowel pin within the mallet head is going to be a 1/2 inch in diameter, and then it's going to be inset 2 inches within the mallet head, and that's what I'm drilling out here. So I have my depth stop on my drill press set at 2 inches, so I know exactly when I reach the bottom of that hole. Now we'll take a 1/2 inch diameter dowel that's 2.5 inches in length, and we're going to be creating a kerf in the middle of the dowel 1 inch from the top. This kerf in the dowel allows us to place glue and still be able to insert it within that 1/2 inch hole that we just drilled out on our drill press. You'll want to begin by tapping the top of the dowel with a rubber mallet, and that'll begin to inset that dowel into that hole, but it won't be enough force to secure it all the way. So I found that if you flip the mallet over and hammer the actual pin, then it insets it really nicely. Since we used a 2.5 inch dowel and went in 2 inches, you can confirm that the dowel is placed in properly because there'll only be a 1/2 inch left at the top, in which we'll flush cut off of the mallet head. Afterwards, you want to sand these mallets to a smooth finish and get them ready for finishing. Some great finishing options that I used were Danish oil, boiled linseed oil, and tung oil, and those all came out great. I really hope this video gave you some great ideas for the next mallet that you're going to create, and if it did, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the Shopfix channel. Take care.